first mistake which any person does, forget a planner, forget anything, is that we, because of expeditious reasons, we speed up the process, right? So expediency can also harm your marketing strategy. I don't know if you know it. You know, in our health system, very unfortunate, in our health system, the total number of ventilators available in the country is about 40,000. Now, why this 40,000 was never questioned is because we never had a pandemic in our life. This is the first time in our life that we are having a pandemic. Now, it is expected that these pandemics will continue because after coronavirus, you'll have a lot of viruses coming up with a bigger footprint. Now, because we had no pandemic, the number of ventilators required on an average was enough. 40,000 was enough. Now, when the pandemic broke out, the first thing what we see is out of the 40,000, 20,000 do not work, as usual, of course. So the total number of ventilators available for the country is 20,000. So 1.3 billion people and 20,000 ventilators. In New York City, on the other hand, the population is about 18 million or 20 million, and the total number of ventilators is 30,000 working ones. And they said, we need another 40,000. And then first Trump said, no, you don't need this much, I'll give you 20,000 and so on and so forth. Now he says, please take 40,000. So for a population of about 20 million, you have about 70,000 ventilators. Now what happens? The same thing is done in Spain, Italy, because the virus is spreading very fast in those countries. And they got ventilators from N number of places and the testing kits for N number of places. And it seems in Spain, about 60% of the testing kits are defective. Now, why it is so? It is because the process has been, speeded up or hastened up. So if you speed up your process of planning, the chances of mistakes are higher. Second, the amount of data collected and the quality of data collected actually is important. You know, if you take statistics, okay, so if you take statistics, the first thing we say is for a good sample, the number of sample is good. Yeah, that means more the sample, the number of samples is higher, the expected answers is better. But in sample, we also know one thing, and that is the quality of data. So if the quality of data is not good and the number of data is high, you will get a skewed answer. Same with planning. The data, yeah? Third, who's responsible? You know, most of the companies, what they do is they will give you some work to do. And when it does not happen, you are given, or you are asked why it did not happen. So the person who has given you the work, somehow or the other, he has to be the responsible person. So many companies do that. They will tell you who is responsible for this strategic planning. Then we have your structure, then you have your length of the plan. For example, for a virus vaccine to come, the average time required is about 7 years. This time, because coronavirus is killing people at such a fast pace, it is expected the vaccine will be ready within 18 months. Don't ask me how many will die in that 18 months, but It is from 7 years, it has been speeded up to between 12 to 18 months. Now, is it okay or is it enough? This is where you're reworked on the next. Yeah, Adnan, can I have the next slide, please? Right. Next. The next phase of mistakes will be, every plan requires a plan A, plan B, plan C. That is, if plan A doesn't work, what is plan B? If plan B doesn't, what is plan C? Every company which is professional always has a plan B and plan C. Eight. Slide number 8. Okay, here. Now, how do I remove these two? There are two lines down here. Adnan, can you see it? There is one horizontal line. Is it possible to edit it out?
Almost, let it be. Now we can just carry on with it.
Hello? Okay, Adnan, I think the connection is not very good. Can we reschedule this class? Please. You can? Seriously? Okay, fine. In that case, why reschedule? Now let's see these mistakes. Whatever might come in every planning process. These are mistakes which we should absolutely avoid. Why we should avoid is because for a product to be launched, starting right from your research up to the launching of a product, you'll find that the costs involved is in millions of dollars. For example, I'm sure you know that if you want to introduce a formula in the market, that is introducing a new medicine in the market, the time taken can be between 5 to 7 years, as I told you, around 7 years for a vaccine, and the average amount of money spent on every formula from the entire, right from starting the formula up to taking it to the market, the cost involved can be about $100 million. Yeah, $100 million. In Indian rupees, 700 crore rupees per formula. Every company to be successful needs at least 3 to 4 good drugs in the market every year. which means that at least 3 drugs should give you about $1 billion of revenue, right? To do that, you require at least 10 major considerations. That is, 10 formulas should be backed at the rate of $100 million per formula. So the point I'm trying to make is, you first get n number of formulas. You'll get at least say 50, 100, 200, 500, whatever formulas, or even 1,000 plus. Out of that, you take it down to 10 formulas or 10 types of medicines. Out of this 10, you should have between 2 to 3 blockbusters. Now, what is a blockbuster? A blockbuster is one product or one medicine which gives you $1 billion in revenue per year over the life of the medicine. So if you do not have 2 to 3 blockbusters, your entire company can be in loss. So why I'm saying all these is because as a planner, it is not necessary that you should have all these mistakes taken away, because any mistake can throw into serious doubt a few $1 billion of investment. Yeah. Okay. Next, we'll just go through this chart and then continue further. Yeah, Adnan, 9, slide 9. Yeah. So as a planner, this is approximately how a sequence is, right? From historical data, current situation, analysis, objectives, finances, negotiate plan, and measure progress, and then the audit, and then you have the final product going out. Now, what I'm trying to say here is nothing much. A method in which a new product is brought to the market. This is what the method is. We will study this in detail somewhere about the chapter number 5. So let's go to the next one. It's only a sequence. Keep it at that. Yeah, man. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay. So if you look at a marketing plan, which you will be giving it to the top management, a marketing plan will be something like this. I mean, what we do is, in your research methodology, I'm sure you have gone through a research plan. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, in the research methodology, if you look, how many of you are very familiar with research methodology? And in the final chapter of research methodology, what you have is your research report.
Yes, so we have done it
Yes.
in last
Yes, sir.
semester.
Friends, I can't hear you. What I can request is type, please. Okay, so if you have gone through the research plan or the research report, you'll find hypothesis testing is in your analysis. Hypothesis is your part of your plan of research. Hypothesis testing is your analysis. And the last part is your, after testing, is your conclusions. And then after conclusions, it is the report. You're absolutely right. That report is the last one. It is a formal presentation for the general audience. True. So that is what I'm trying to say. So what we are doing right now for the next about 2 or 3 slides is trying to write a marketing plan. Now remember, a marketing plan is almost similar to your research plan or your research document. The reason being, your marketing is always done by research. You know, you cannot have any activity in marketing or any activity in management without research. So research is where you start your plans. Research is where you end your plans. And then research continues and your plans have to change. For example, if you take the the current situation in India now, many companies are facing a huge problem of finances. And the companies are not those huge, Reliance or anything. The companies are the medium scale companies. I'm sure you know that in any country, including US or India, about 80 to 85% of the employees are the small and medium scale enterprises. 80 to 80% of all employers are small and medium scale enterprises. Reliance, Airtel, SBI, all these employ between 10 to 15% of the employees. 80% plus is small and medium enterprises. Now, in this coronavirus problems, the biggest hit in the country is to the small and medium enterprises. Now, if you look at what the world is doing, you will find that America is doing great. What Trump has done is he has just signed a $2 trillion bill. That is, every American will get in his bank account $1,200 by first week of April. That is money given to him free of cost. Then there are a lot of jokes and all. What happens if I am a millionaire? You still get $1,200. What happens to Trump? Actually, Trump also got $1,200. Of course, he may not need it, but he also got it. So every bank account in America gets $1,200. Second, the bigger companies like the airlines and Ford and General Motors, they get about a few $1 billion to tide over this problem. But the biggest job creators are the small, and for them, Trump has allocated $369 billion. So if you are a small company, or if you are a visiting faculty like me, I can go to Trump and say, hey, I used to earn peanuts. Now my peanuts are gone. What happens next? So Trump will try to give me maybe about half a peanut. So every small and medium enterprise which approaches the government for help gets help. What is the help? Whatever is the loss they have suffered, a part of it will be given by the government. Second, the government will also give discounts in your what do you say, the amount of tax you pay. Yeah? In fact, a lot of things are coming up. So Trump has already signed $2 trillion, that is $1,200 for every American every month. Second, $369 billion for small and medium enterprises. So what I'm trying to say, now here in India, we are still coming up with something. The immediate thing was all EMIs, which anybody in India has, is now given 3 months of time. That is, if I had to pay my car loan, which I am doing to Tata Finance, I just go on the website and say, I want a moratorium, and I get it for 3 months. That means my next EMI will be in June 2020. So the point is, this has been given to every loan taker. So my Bajaj everywhere. Okay. Not exactly. You see, Mr. Trump, it is not only if you have a previous pending loan where you get some moratorium, you also get fresh money from the American government. So, Mr. Donald Trump, I'm sure you understand, you are giving $369 billion. Yeah. And this money is not a loan. This money is basically a grant. So $369 billion is a grant given to the small and medium enterprises. And the fun part is, Donald Trump is actually looking out to increase this $369 billion to another figure, which I'm sure the people are doing. So my gut feel is, I might be wrong, but I'm sure I'm not wrong by a long margin. My gut feel is 2 trillion for the common man of America and 1 trillion for, yeah, you're right, he will increase it to, I believe it is going to be about $1 to $1.5 trillion. Now, the benefits are, your unemployment benefits have already kicked in. Your small and medium enterprises have already got money, and the common people have got $100 every month. So all these are great. I mean, this means that if I have $100 in my bank account, I can use this for either paying off previous loans, or I can use it for paying off my credit card loan, whatever. But what it means is there is some money available to every American. It is said that about 95% of all Americans will get this money. So good, why not? Elections usually attract more money than this for rally. Doing this will attract votes by spending government money. Mastermind. Possible, possible. Absolutely possible. Because 2020 is when the elections are. So far, the elections have not been postponed, which actually means that 2020, Trump is going to give a lot of money to the Americans, and people will love it and vote for him. And all this will be legal. So great. Yeah. So this is the summary. So executive summary is nothing but a summary of your entire research, marketing research. True. What Donald Trump says is right, that they won't get the benefit unless they keep their employees. Absolutely true. But what you don't get it is that 50% of all salaries of small and medium scale enterprises, 50% of the salaries will be paid by the government. Effectively, what it means is the employers will get to keep the people as employees, and they will have to pay half That is how money is given. See, Americans are business people. They know how to run a business. So the small businesses will be able to get people at half the cost, and also they will get a grant to keep their business running. So it's a good plan. I'm not saying it's bad. So this is your situation analysis. I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say. Your competitor analysis, category analysis, company analysis, customer analysis, planning assumptions, all these will come into the situation analysis. Adnan, next one. Then your plan will have objectives. Yeah, so every research, I'm sure you know, every research starts with an objective. What I'm trying to say here is that in a PhD, suppose you forget the industry research, if you're doing a PhD and you have a research, executive summary, and in that you have something known as hypothesis. Now, what is a hypothesis? In a very colloquial terms, it means an educated guess. For example, my hypothesis is every student of Kumbha, because they are MBA students, study for 3 hours every day for these 2 years. This is my hypothesis. I'm sure you do that. And okay, we'll talk later about how we go about. So this is my hypothesis. And my objectives of study is I want to study this because I feel that 3 hours of study is enough to get a CGPA of 7.5. Yeah. And I'm going to, the second objective will be to find out how or which subjects they are doing, all those things. Yeah. At the end of my research, I find that students of Kumbha do not study for 3 hours every day for the 2 years. They have many social things, they have many personal problems, and so on. For example, which party, when do you go, what kind of food you have in the party, all those are important things. Yeah. 3 hours per week get an 8 plus. I'm being conservative, Donald Trump. I'm saying 7.5 CGPA. More than 70% of students of Kumbha do not study for 3 hours. Yeah? And the average they do is maybe 1 hour every day. So, my hypothesis might, when I see the results, about 80% of the class gets 7.5 CGPA and above, in spite of studying 1 hour per day. Now, what I'm saying here is that my hypothesis is not proved. Yeah? Okay, syllabus is easy, faculties are very, very student-oriented, whatever, I mean, n number of reasons. So, if my hypothesis is not proved, yeah, if I have an alternative hypothesis, does that mean my objectives are reached? Yes, of course, I've studied everything, whatever objectives I've taken in, I have studied. So that is the reason why I get this answer. But my hypothesis is not proved. So the point I'm trying to ask you is, will that student get a PhD? If the hypothesis is not proved, but objectives are met, will the student get a PhD? Anything, I mean, your inputs. Uh-huh. You're right. The student will get the PhD because research, whether it is industrial research or it is academic research, the most important part of a research is not hypothesis. The most important part of a research is objectives. If you are able to define your objectives correctly, you will get your PhD. For example, in a marketing research, most of the time, the boss will tell you, hey, I wanted a growth of 10% per year, but my sales is not happening. Please find out what. So immediately the objectives would be, why is it that sales is not happening? And your objectives will be absolutely wrong. Objectives is not to find sales not happening, but objectives is to find why sales are not happening and to find out why others are able to sell it. So objectives is not your final, expectations. Objectives is your methodology. So if your objectives is good, is correct, your research will end up being a correct research, right? Then you have to define your product and brand strategy as part of your marketing plan. Supporting marketing programs. Sometimes, you have a marketing program running and suddenly you say, nahi yaar, band karo, let us do something else. Immediately the millions you have spent on one marketing program go off. For example, Jet Airways had something known as jet privilege. That is, if you take up a few trips on Jet Airways, you get a privilege card and the miles keep adding. At the end of it, if you have enough miles, you can actually take or get a free ticket. So what I'm trying to say here is that they get it, and this is what killed them. Not exactly this what killed them. There are many other things that killed them. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that in the current situation, let's say 7th of April 2020, Jet Airways is closed. There is no flight of Jet Airways anywhere. But you'll be surprised to know jet privilege is on. Jet privilege is on. Yeah? So I'm sure they're using it for some other airlines or whatever. But the jet privilege is on. Your jet privilege card is a valid card. So this is what I'm trying to say. Supporting marketing programs. If you're supporting a program up to the end, your inputs might be very good. Yeah, then you have your financial documents. Controls is important. For example, if your controls are bad, yeah, your best of plans can go very, very awry. Now, what do I mean by that? For example, a few years back, about 10 years back, one of the leading MBA colleges was IIPM. Mr. Arindam Chaudhary was the head, and IIPM was the college. I think some of you might still remember it. You must have been very young at that time. And every day on the front page of Times of India, you had the Chodiwala coming on with a nice blue jacket and saying, go beyond IIMs. Exactly. And SRK was not only his ambassador, SRK also was a quiz master in one of the programs. Sure, investor, maybe investor. So what happens is, IIPM was big at that time. And we all know by about 2013-14, IIPM almost went, why almost? It closed down. The question is why? It was doing well. I'll come to that. Let's start again. People, etc. You are coming to people who are a different class altogether. Now, this is because the numbers in that 2 lakh rupee MBA program, the numbers are huge, humongous, not huge, humongous. So on an average, IIT Pune had about, say, 80 students, 75 to 80 students. By the time this new thing came up, it just crossed 400. So 75 to 80 will be the rich kids, and 300 plus will be the low middle class and others. Now, because of that, students are huge, but the problem is managing this became most impossible. And in about 2.5, 3 years' time, instead of going that big, IIPM, and somebody of course put a court case saying that the MBA IIPM offers is fake. You cannot offer an MBA if you are not recognized by UGC, as one of us have said. And the court case has just been, the results have just come from the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has said about a month back that even if you're not recognized by UGC, you can okay. So this is what I'm talking about, controls. Up to 75, 80, 100 students, I had a great deal of control and was doing so well for almost, say, 15 years. The day it went into a different segment, wanted to increase its numbers, it closed down. Which means every marketing plan, in addition to the growth strategy, should have a control strategy. If your control is not correct, right? One thing where most companies are failing, most organizations are failing, as I told you, is your plan B, plan C. What it means is most companies do not have a contingency plan, which effectively means if one plan doesn't work, your company do not have a plan B. And that is a killer. Because we all know the only change in a business environment is change. Oh, sorry. The only constant in a business environment is change, which means business environment will keep on changing and your plans have to keep up with that change. If not, there are times when you might even lose your business. So with this, friends, we end up with chapter number 2, that is market planning. Any questions? Next slide. It actually gives it gives any question. Any questions? Good, good. So what I said is speed is a problem. I would qualify it as unplanned speed is a problem. As you said, startups have to be very fast because they have to be beyond the curve. That is what I'm saying, beyond the curve. It means that whatever is the normal curve of a business, I'm sure you have gone through that, growth, stability, decline, yeah? You have to be before the curve, because if you're not before the curve, the market will throw you out. I'm with you on this. But as I said, speed is not the problem. Unplanned speed is the problem. Fail often, fail fast. My question is, how many investors would like that? Because most startups have some investors. So fail often, fail fast may not be for India. Because in India, getting resources is very difficult. Once you get a resource, you have to succeed, at least show that you have succeeded to some extent. Yeah. So friends, with this, we stop our discussion on planning. It's now 1:30, but friends, I do not want to continue further with the chapter 3. The reason being my internet is not good at all. Yes. Yes. Sustainability is the problem. And this is not the first time I'm seeing it. In the year 1998 to 2000, you had a lot of companies which were into the .com. And one of the reasons is because everybody had a model. And that was Sabir Bhatia. I think you know him. Have you heard about Sabir Bhatia?
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes, sir.
Sabir Bhatia is the person who started Hotmail, the first free internet service. And when Microsoft wanted to buy it, Sabir Bhatia did not serve. In the end, he sold it at a price which he wanted, and that was $400 million, and that was in the 90s. Now remember, this becomes a